Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for giving me another opportunity to talk about lifestyle medicine. So, we are going to know a little more about the importance of lifestyle medicine, and in the end I have added actually a few slides which are going to explain the Pakistani lifestyle, what I am actually practicing. So we have to have knowledge about what is happening globally or in US, and then we need to know why the Pakistanis are getting sicker day by day. You go to a hospital, you go to a government hospital, hospitals are overflowing with patients. So something is wrong at some level which probably we are not aware of. So, but why there is a need for another specialty? The reason was that transition from communicable to current epidemic of non-communicable diseases, it happened due to an unhealthy lifestyle. Then epigenetics. We doctors talk about genetics and we say that you have to suffer because your genes are carrying these diseases, but lifestyle is connected to epigenetics, which says that your genes are not your destiny, your lifestyle is your destiny. And if you modify your lifestyle today, you can modify your genes. And this I am doing in my clinic by working on genetic disorders. Can you imagine that a Down syndrome baby has responded to food modification, and his pediatricians has now declared him that he is no more a Down syndrome baby. It was an amazing result of lifestyle medicine. The beauty of lifestyle medicine, it works equally on a baby and on a 100-year-old man. There is no age limit. You can work at all levels. This is a very famous news that according to WHO, by 2020, 2/3 of all disease worldwide will be the result of lifestyle choices. And the prevalence of lifestyle diseases or the deaths due to lifestyle diseases were 38 million in 2017, and they are going to be 44 million due to NCDs or non-communicable diseases. This is basically a WHO slide. There is another slide which says that the healthcare cost, indirect healthcare cost, is double the amount of direct healthcare cost. This is a slide from Canada actually. So we have, you guys have presented a very informative documentary, and you talked about actually the NCD's data from Pakistan. I don't have that data with me, but this is the slide from some Canadian Healthcare Society. Now, why there is a need? I'm going to share few slides which are the slides from American College of Lifestyle Medicine, or these were the slides which, this was part of my course when I appeared for my board examination. So you will have the direct information. So why lifestyle medicine and its practitioners are necessary in primary care? Because in US in 2009, heart disease was the #1 killer. Then #2 was cancer, and both are lifestyle diseases. So if you go into little more detail of this, the causes, if you see the key on the right side, you will see that in heart diseases, poor diet, inactivity, and tobacco is dominant factor in heart disease. And if you look at the second bar, which is all cancers, you will see that tobacco and #2 becomes the poor diet and inactivity. But when I practice, I say food is the most important factor. So this is what I do in synchronized lifestyle modification plan, that we modify food, we synchronize the food, and other factors become the minor factors. Then another important reason that why the doctors should learn, there is a physician health crisis. So this survey was conducted in California, and they have found that 1875 doctors were included in this survey, and they found that 53% were having severe to moderate stress. When I get a chance to see medical students, I am highly disappointed to see a 4th year or final year student with obesity or depression. They are already, I always tell them, how come you are going to lead, become a physician and lead or carry the burden of medical system? You are falling sick at such a young age. So medical students are, what I have observed, they are, because of their overburden of studies and no healthy lifestyle activities in their routine, they do suffer from depressions. Then 35% physicians were on no or occasional exercises. 34% were having 6 or fewer hours of sleep. I see a lot of general physicians who close their clinic by midnight. They come to their home by 12 or 1, and then they start their clinics from the next morning, and they are just drained, badly drained, and having all sorts of lifestyle diseases because they are too busy, they're too committed, their clinics are too busy, and they don't get time for their own care. Then 27% never or occasionally ate breakfast. I call my plans breakfast therapy because Allah has designed our body for 2 meals. So we cannot survive without having breakfast because there is a clock and the system is ready for the first food in the morning. The maximum, optimum digestion, optimum absorption, optimum assimilation is in the morning. If I can't do anything, I just tell anybody coming to me, please start your breakfast and have a tummy full breakfast. So you can imagine if they are not having breakfast, how can they can help the others who are not healthy. 13% were on sedatives, tranquilizers, 4% were on marijuana, and then 7% were depressed. So lifestyle medicine, it covers it applies to every practice. Rather, it can apply to any academic setup. So the definition by this was actually by ACLM, which is American College, and ACPM is American College of Preventive Medicine, which involves the use of evidence-based lifestyle therapeutic approaches such as predominantly whole food plant-based diet, regular physical activity, adequate sleep, stress management, avoidance of risky substance use, and other non-drug modalities to prevent, treat, and often reverse the lifestyle-related chronic diseases. So what could be the setting of a lifestyle medicine clinic? It could be a primary care clinic, there are group practices, it could be a residential clinic. I'll show you a slide where they admit patients for 2 weeks and they only treat with lifestyle medicine, and then the patient gets better and then they discharge the patient. Then there is a chance of working with telemedicine in lifestyle medicine. I do Skype consultations, I do WhatsApp consultations, and it is very easy because you always found something wrong with the lifestyle. I have a few of my patients who were having rheumatoid arthritis, and he was actually in Canada. I never met him, and I just worked through Skype, and he got, mashallah, better. So the beauty of lifestyle medicine is that it is simple to practice. So again, what are the components? Predominantly plant-based diet. Here I disagree with my seniors, and they say that the meat should be, or the animal protein should be hardly 10%. They talk about 90% plant-based and 10% animal protein. But I have agreed to them and I have told them that my plans are actually 75 to 80% plant-based and 20% is animal protein, because we have to look into the cultural eating habits also, and we cannot eliminate, like Chinese cannot survive without their soups. I was talking to a Japanese lifestyle medicine practitioner. He said, no, I listened to all this, but I'm not going to stop my seafood. We were in Seoul, Korea, and he said, no, I will not. I can't stop because it is part of my culture. So broth, yakhni is actually part of my plan. So it has to be there. Then sleep regulation. I talk about nocturnal sleep. When we say sleep, you have to sleep 6 to 8 hours at night, not during the day. Physical activity, I talk about personalized physical activity. You cannot just follow the book knowledge and you prescribe the exercise to a person whose heart is not ready, whose muscles are not ready, whose circulation is not ample or sufficient to allow him to go on a strenuous activity. So I talk about personalized physical activity. Positive psychology, this is the favorite part of my lifestyle medicine. And actually, I have started a happiness movement also, because I feel that Pakistani nation is no more a happy nation. We have stiff faces because of a variety of stresses in our culture, in our society. We all have gone into deep stresses. So happiness science is branch of lifestyle medicine, and it gives you simple tools how to be happy, Then social connectedness. When I read about this social connectedness while preparing for my exam, I thought, oh, they are talking about Hukukul Abad, because there was a grand study done by Harvard, and it was a 75 years long study, and the boys who were from Harvard Medical School, who were surviving, the factor they had in common was this social connectedness. They were well connected. So this teaches us that we have to be very compassionate and gentle to people around us. This is again a very important component of lifestyle medicine. Then avoidance of risky materials. Just see the difference between, what is the basic difference? Conventional medicine treats individual risk factors. Lifestyle treat causes with the goal of primary, secondary, and tertiary disease prevention. Patient is often passive recipient. In lifestyle medicine, patient is the active partner. You have to, when the patient is coming to me and the male or the female tells me, "Ye mujhe leke aaye hain," so I put my pen down and ask, and then I just tell him or her, when aap jab apni sehat pe kaam karna chahenge, then come to me. And then within, he goes back, and then he or she comes again and says, no, Dr. Sahab, I'll try to work. So we need a patient who is willing to heal himself. And you can do it very easily, because I'm doing it for the past 15 years. There is no problem. This is nothing very difficult to manage. Then treatment is often short-term and lifestyle medicine is long-term. It is a lifelong process. Then responsibility falls mostly on the clinician, where in lifestyle medicine, emphasis on the motivation and adherence. Medication is often the end treatment, emphasis on diagnosis, prescription, and disease management, while in lifestyle medicine, medication may be needed, but as an adjunct to lifestyle change. So I never stop the medicines of my patient, and they don't need to. Their physician gradually take off their medicine. If the diabetes is coming under control, within 8 to 10 weeks, the insulin is going to drop, then the tablets are going to drop, and within, if they are following it completely, it takes 3 to 6 months to get off medicines with their healthy behavioral change. So this is a new pyramid where lifestyle is now the bigger factor. I like this slide. Most health professionals interrupt their patients within 18 seconds. So lifestyle medicine talks about the role of a doctor as a coach. So when I conduct courses, I teach how to become a coach. You can see the difference between an expert and a coach. Expert is the authority, like we are. We just write the prescription. We even don't look at the face of the patient. Just, "Bibi, ye jao, ye karo jaake." Coach, the role of a coach is to be a partner. Then educator. Coach is facilitator of change. Expert defines agenda. Coach elicits client's agenda. ہم اس سے پوچھتے ہیں آپ کیا چاہتے ہیں. I ask my patient, آپ کیا چاہتے ہیں, میں کیا کروں آپ کے لیے. When I ask this question to I am going to do what I know scientifically. But when I give this authority to the patient, and when I ask him کہ آپ نے اتنی لمبی history لکھی ہے, out of this history, what do you want me to work first on? وہ خود ہی مجھے کہتے ہیں, ڈاکٹر صاحب میرا ایموشنل ایشو ہے, پہلے اس کو ٹھیک کر دیں. تو then patient gets along with you. So expert solves problem, لیکن کوچ جو ہے اٹ فاسٹرز پاسبلٹیز. فوکس آن واٹس رانگ, کوچ آن واٹس رائٹ. ایکسپرٹ ہیز دی آنسرز بٹ دا کوچ کو ڈسکورز دا آنسرز اینڈ دا پیشنٹ ہمسیلف سیز بالکل آپ نے ٹھیک کہا. واٹ آئی ڈو, I tell them to follow the healthy principles for 4 weeks, and then I ask them to withdraw all the healthy principles. I give them 1 week break and then ask them, now you have to tell me how was your feeling in that 1 week when you were not following the healthy lifestyle. Then they learn the difference between healthy behaviors and unhealthy behavior, and then they become more motivated. So expert works harder than client, and in coach role the client works as hard as coach. میں کہتی ہوں اکثر ڈاکٹرس کو, جب ڈاکٹرس میرے پاس ہوتے ہیں, I tell them I do nothing. I feel I am doing nothing because we are interactive. We are working in partnership with my patient. تو مجھے تو لگتا ہے میں کچھ بھی نہیں کر رہی, but I am actually playing the role of coach because this was my training in. I have done a small course in Harvard, Levinson Institute, where they taught you how to become a coach. So wrestles with client, the expert, and the coach dances with client. You can see there is an institute of coaching, McLean Hospital, Harvard Medical School. So now coaching is being taught as a subject. This is the model of WHO. And they talk about innovative care for chronic conditions. And they actually are within the parameters of lifestyle medicines. This is WHO model. Then there is another collaborative care manager model. This is US model, where you form a team actually. There is an academic setting, there is a doctor, then there is interdisciplinary team, residents, nurse practitioners. Then there is another US model, which is Ed Wagner model, and there is little bit of modification, but they work more on community as well. They work more on community. Then another aspect of lifestyle medicine, which is called TLC, which is therapeutic lifestyle changes and mental and emotional well-being. Lifestyle medicine focuses more on emotional health, not depression. It focuses on emotional health, and you can see what is being promoted in therapeutic lifestyle changes: physical activity, nutrition, time in nature, relationships, recreation, religious or spiritual involvement, service to others. Then there is intensive therapeutic lifestyle change. You can see in the first line. The first line, there is Dr. Ornish. You can see the name of Dr. Ornish. Dr. Dean Ornish is the one who is the major founder of lifestyle medicine in US, because Bill Clinton had heart disease, and Dr. Dean Ornish has reversed his heart disease with his lifestyle module, and he's recognized over there, and he's the celebrity, and there are so many other intensive lifestyle change programs. So how did they work? They have generated, so Bill Clinton probably started working on the wellness of Americans, and they have created a task force. I feel like that you students should be the task force of lifestyle medicine. They have created a task force in 1984 to spread the knowledge of lifestyle medicine to schools, to colleges, to all academic institutes, to workplaces. So it's a huge organization. So there is a panel which is called Blue Ribbon Panel on Physician Lifestyle Competencies, and you can see the list of organizations who form the panel, and they have actually decided that in order to be a lifestyle medicine practitioner, a doctor has to learn about 15 medicine core competencies, which include everything: nutrition, sleep, behavioral control. Self-care is very important part of these competencies. Then how to change the behavior. So these are the 15 competencies which make you an expert on lifestyle medicine. This is again by National Blue Ribbon Panel. No, this is my model actually. What I am doing, I am working on preventive health care because patients come to me now, after 15 years they have now realized that I can work on preventive health. They come, they say, my father had heart attack, my brother had heart attack, I want to prevent myself, so I work on preventive health. I try to go to the community and the classes, the people who cannot go to doctors, we can give them preventive medicine tips to even the class which is not even can't afford to go to a doctor. Then primary health care is in the clinic, then chronic disease care, then intensive therapeutic care. I don't have a residential arrangement, but I do manage ICU patients through their relatives, and I can give them, prescribe a plan which goes through NG tube, and then the patient comes to me after 2 or 4 weeks. Community care is my very bigger project because I'm working through print, social, electronic media for this community care. And I do incorporate this LMTC academic setup in cooperation with, in collaboration with ELMED. You can see I have changed the setup of my clinic. After I learned about physical inactivity, I was the most inactive person because I used to sit for probably 9 hours on my chair. Then I designed this desk. This is upright desk, and after every 10 or 5 minutes, ideally you are supposed to stand up after 20 minutes. So I get up after every 10 to 15 minutes, and that has healed my postural edema, my lower legs which were getting swollen and swollen by day by day. By standing after every patient or by standing after every 10-15 minutes, I have healed my own issue. So, and in the same, you can see the clay glass on the table, and you can see that pink bottle which just gives aroma to the room. And when the patient enters in my room, they just look around and they say, why there is so pleasant smell? What you have done? Have you spent so much time in making your patient comfortable? And that is the time they are willing to give themselves to you. Because if the patient comes to you, a serious patient is coming to you, they have to trust you also. The salt lamps are there just to produce more negative ions in the room and just to do a little bit of cleansing of the room. This is the center which I'm trying to run, and this is actually April 2019 batch. Now, we will go into little bit about the healing. So one thing we have to understand that as doctors, we only know about 1/3 of a human body, which is the physical body. Do you know about anything about mind? Tell me. Have you read anything about autonomic nervous system? Can you control the involuntary heart rate? Can you control? Can you control your breathing? No. You can't control your breathing. This is all happening involuntary. So autonomic, parasympathetic, sympathetic is controlling everything, which is connected to mind. And we never read about mind. We never read about mind. So lifestyle medicine and integrative medicine gives us an idea that how powerful is the mind. So healing is, the first statement is, healing is within, without. So let's see what are the basic controlling mechanism of the body. Circadian rhythms. We all have read in physiology about circadian rhythms. You know that, no? That there is a pineal gland, it releases melatonin, and pineal gland is connected to sunrise and sunset. Now the science has discovered that there is not only one clock, there are so many micro clocks. They call it microprocessors. The master clock is sending the order to the micro clock, which is present in liver, pancreas, adrenal gland, kidney, and probably many more, because I can recall only these. So if they are in alignment, you have health. If they are not in alignment, you will be having different problems. We will go into details how it affects the health. Then alignment of master clock with universal rhythm, with sunrise and sunset, is called entrainment. So entrainment is the first terminology, first time I heard in lifestyle medicine. So the process where you align your body with sunrise, sunset, and indirectly with the master clock is called entrainment. So how does this entrainment controlling your health? It controls your pH. And you all, as medical doctors or students, know how important is the blood pH. And there is a narrow range. 7.35 is the blood pH. You cannot survive at 9 and you cannot survive at 5. See? You cannot survive in acidosis and you cannot survive in alkalosis. So there is a narrow range. So core temperature is very important. Internal temperature, which is 98.6, is the key for the optimum function of your heart, liver, brain, kidney. Then insulin levels are important, not for the occurrence of diabetes. Insulin controls all metabolic processes. Then food cravings. If we are aligned with nature, food cravings lead to health. And disruption in all above processes lead to NCDs, which are non-communicable diseases. This is actually a screenshot of that book, which was my exam book. You can read in the first 2 lines, body clocks and entrainment. And in the picture, you can see so many minor or micro clocks, which are in the lower part of the picture. So how the brain and the master clock is connected and how our survival is actually controlled by the synchronization between master clock and the minor clocks. So what are the root causes of NCDs? How do we connect all? This is again what I learned in my American training, that there are 4 causes of NCDs: inflammation, lipotoxicity, oxidative damage, and dysbiosis. These are the 4 causes. Now, how do they connect to an unhealthy lifestyle? Wrong eating habits. So eating habit is the number 1 factor. Wrong eating habits. I have not used the word wrong type of foods. I am talking about eating habits. So wrong eating habits lead to dysfunctional circadian rhythm. Allah has given you a clock and you are supposed to take your breakfast before 9 in the morning. You are supposed to take your evening meal before 9 p.m. If you are not taking your meals before 9 a.m. and before 9 p.m., you have malaligned your clock and you have malaligned your digestive system. And gut is, probably you all know, that gut is now called the second brain. So it is connected with the master clock also. So when there is a dysfunctional circadian rhythm and homeostasis, there is a start of non-communicable physical disease, there are behavioral and relationship disorders, there is dysfunctional reproductive health. You all know that infertility, impotency has gone so high, and IUI and IVF and all strange processes are prevailing in our society. Then dysfunctional family. I use the word dysfunctional family because there is no bonding between the children and their parents. Poor work output. हर बंदा काम से चोरी करना चाहता है. Nobody is enjoying the work because they are not happy internally. Then overthinking. This is again a very common presentation. We don't sleep at night because mind is wandering. We suffer from sleep disorders. So let's go into little about the food. According to US, we are not going to use the terms now balanced foods. We are going to use terms food packages or whole foods or nutrient dense foods. What are these foods? Nutrient dense foods are actually the healing foods because they are rich in shortfall nutrients and they have low level of overconsumed nutrients. What are shortfall nutrients? A, D, C, E, folate, calcium, magnesium, potassium, and fiber. And these are mainly found in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, legumes, and low-fat dairy. And what are overconsumed foods? These are added sugars, corn syrup, cholesterol, saturated fats, sodium, trans fats, processed grains like white rice, white flour, and white pasta. So, Global Alliance talk about whole food, plant-based diet. Now, how to eat correctly? A healthy food can be a remedy or a poison. Food turns into a super toxin by wrong type, wrong timing, and its wrong or incorrect combinations. This is news which I would like to share before I share with you the statistics of Pakistan. This was released in 2006. The mounting epidemic of obesity in children would see many die before their parents. This is the first generation in history where children may die before their parents. I didn't believe this, but now I am the witness to this. So now let's see what are the LM statistics from Pakistan. According to the National Diabetes Survey of Pakistan, 26% is diagnosed with diabetes, in which 14% is overweight, 44% is obese, and 46% are hypertensive. About 160,000 Pakistanis are killed due to tobacco smoke, tobacco use. At least 12 Pakistanis die every hour due to heart disease. According to World Cancer Research, Pakistan is second on the list of countries with the highest incidence of oral cancer. This is a problem which I see is very much related to Pakistani girls. Our girls are now developing, turning their bodies into a pear. Pear-shaped body is definitely connected to stress, poor quality of sleep, lot of processed food, and insecurity. And it leads to polycystic ovaries and later on reproductive health issues. So what are the commonly observed disorders in Pakistan which are intermediate factors before the onset of non-communicable disease? Allergies, constipation, digestive disorders, obesity, disproportionate body. A male with tummy coming out has hormonal disorders. Fatty liver, lipids, uric acid, everybody is coming, my vitamin D is low. Every patient coming, my uric acid is high. This is an outcome of dysfunctional liver. Diabetes, sleep disorders, and relationship disorders. What are the unhealthy lifestyle factors of Pakistanis? They don't take any breakfast, or it's wrong timings or combination. There is overusage of white flour, rice, there is overusage of broiler chicken, wrong usage of milk, and there is a bad concept of garam thanda in our country. Everybody is after dropping their core temperature, and dropping of core temperature leads to NCDs. So as we are getting short of time, so I am just going to go through. Happiness is very important, and this campaign was started in University of Texas. And this is so important that the UN has declared 20th March as International Day of Happiness. So I think we should celebrate next year, inshallah, together. So this is my logo, and thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We are pleased to have you here. Now, moving on. I would like to mention that we have two important guests who have actually benefited from the evidence-based practice. We are really honored to have with us Colonel Niaz Hussain Siddiqui and Ms. Iram Shafiq. Thank you so much to both of you for being here. First, I would like to invite Ms. Iram Shafiq to come up on the stage and share her views.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for inviting me. I actually want to represent the 70% population of my country who belong to lower middle classes. And you being doctors, सबसे ज़्यादा आपका वास्ता हमारे साथ पड़ेगा. जब आप डॉक्टर बन जाएंगे, सबसे ज़्यादा हम ही लोग आपके पास आएंगे. सारा दिन जो अस्पताल हैं वो हम ही जैसे लोगों से भरे पड़े हैं. पिम्स के अंदर रोज़ाना 10 से 15 हज़ार तक मरीज़ आ रहे हैं रोज़ाना, आउटडोर पेशेंट्स. यहाँ पे पॉली क्लिनिक में 5 से 4 हज़ार रोज़ाना, और पूरे पाकिस्तान में बहुत बढ़ के इससे ज़्यादा कहीं बड़ी तादाद है. तो चूँकि आपका वास्ता हमारे साथ पड़ेगा, तो इसलिए एक छोटा सा एक एक्सपीरियंस मैं शेयर करना चाहूँगी कि ये जो लाइफ स्टाइल वाली बात की है डॉक्टर साहिबा ने, इट्स नॉट अ लाइफ स्टाइल मेडिसिन, इट्स नॉट अ मेडिसिन फॉर मी, इट्स द ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन of the life, transformation of emotional, physical, mental lifestyle for our population, being mothers, being daughters, being in every role in which we are. آج سے 12 سال پہلے جب میں ان کے پاس گئی ڈاکٹر صاحبہ کے پاس تو میرے 4 بچے تھے اور میرا جو چھوٹا بیٹا تھا وہ 3 سال کا غالباً اور انتہائی خوفناک اس کی حالت, اس کے پھیپھڑے بہت خراب تھے. اس سے پہلے جب میں نے ڈاکٹر کے پاس اس کا ٹریٹمنٹ کرایا تو ڈاکٹر نے مجھے کہا کہ اس کا جو ہے بہت حالات خراب ہے, اب یہ میڈیسن دینا نیبولائزر لگے گا اس کو, آپ مستقل, یہ تو مریض ساری زندگی ایسے رہے گا, اس کے پھیپھڑے ٹھیک نہیں ہو سکتے. تو اس وقت جو تھی بہت بری حالت تھی, میرے پاس وسائل کم تھے, اکنامکلی بہت زیادہ برے حالات تھے گھر کے. اس کے بعد یہ ہے کہ گھر میں سورس آف انکم نہیں تھا, 4 بچے تھے, آئی واز ہوم لیس. تو اس میں جب ان کے پاس گئی تو انہوں نے مجھے ایک, وہ ابھی بھی میرے پاس وہ پلان میں نے رکھا ہوتا ہے اپنے پاس, انہوں نے ایک پلان بنا کے دیا جو اس میں کچھ ٹائمنگ بتائیں, اس ٹائم پہ یہ کھائیں, یہ کھائیں, یہ کھائیں. میں نے گھر آ کے بچے کو وہ شروع کروایا اللہ کا نام لے کے, اور میں حیران تھی اس میں میڈیسن نہیں ہے. آئی واز شاکڈ. اس سے پہلے اتنے لمبے لسٹیں میڈیسنس کی اور اس کے اندر دوائی نہیں ڈالی انہوں نے. تھوڑا سا ڈاؤٹ ہوا میں نے کہا یہ میں نہیں ہو سکے گا, امپاسبل ہے, اس نے ٹھیک نہیں ہونا. تو باقی تو ڈاکٹرز نے تو ویسے ہی مجھے کہہ دیا تھا کہ یہ مستقل ایسے ہی ہوگا, لیکن پھر میں نے اللہ کا نام, میں نے کہا چلیں شروع کرتے ہیں, دیکھتے ہیں کیا ہوتا ہے. اس کے بعد اس پلان کا یہ اثر ہوا کہ آہستہ آہستہ اس میں بڑی بہتری آنے لگی, اس کی ہیلتھ بہتر ہونے لگی. اس کے تقریباً 3 سے 4 ماہ بعد میں جب میں ایک ڈاکٹر کے پاس ایکس رے کے لیے لے کے گئی تو انہوں نے کہا ماشاء اللہ اٹس میریکل کہ یہ بچہ چھوٹا سا جو ہے بالکل ٹھیک ہو رہا ہے. اس کا اثر یہ ہوا کہ جب یہ پیدا ہوا تو پہلے 3 سال تک یہ بچہ جو تھا, میں رات کو سو نہیں سکتی تھی, ساری رات میں اس کو بازوؤں پہ لے کے بیٹھتی تھی, اور نہ ہمارے پاس کھانے کے لیے کوئی چیز, نہ پہننے کے لیے کوئی چیز, اور بہت برے حالات. پھر اس کے بعد یہ ہوا کہ وہ ٹھیک ہونے لگ گیا اور اس کو نیبولائزر کی ضرورت نہیں پڑی 4th ایئر میں. اس کے بعد میں نے یہ سوچا میں اپنے اوپر بھی اس پلان کو ٹرائی کر کے دیکھتی ہوں. میں ڈاکٹر کے پاس گئی, انہوں نے مجھے پلان دیا, جو پلان دیا اور اس میں نے عمل کرنا شروع کیا تو میرے میں ایک تبدیلی آئی. یہ وہ تبدیلی ہے جس کے لیے میں آپ سے ریکویسٹ کروں گی, اگر آپ ان کے ایک چھوٹے سے ایکسپیرینس کو, چھوٹے سا بگ ایکسپیرینس, ناٹ این ایکسپیرینس, اٹس علم, اٹس ریئل نالج, اس کو اگر آپ اپنے اس میں جو پرسکرپشن اس میں اگر شامل کر دیں تو آپ کس طرح ٹرانسفارم کر سکتے ہیں اپنی آبادی کے ایک بڑے طبقے کو, اس کی لائف کو. اس میں میرے میں تبدیلی یہ آئی کہ میرے میں اتنی پازیٹیونیس آ گئی کہ میں نے وہ تمام چیزیں چھوڑ دیں جو کہ ایک مٹیریل پرسوٹس ہیں لائف میں. مجھے اس چیز کی پرواہ نہیں تھی کہ میرے پاس کپڑے کتنے مہنگے ہیں یا نہیں ہیں. میری چوائسیز بدل گئیں, میں نے عام کپڑے خریدنے شروع کر دیے, میں نے آگے بڑھنے کی روش ختم کر دی, مرسنری موٹیو ختم ہو گئے, لائف میں سکون آ گیا, ریلیشن شپ بہتر ہو گیا ہسبینڈ کے ساتھ, فیملی کے ساتھ ریلیشن شپ بہتر ہونے لگا, بچوں پہ توجہ زیادہ ہونے لگی, بچوں کے ساتھ انٹریکشن بڑھنے لگا, پازیٹیو چینجز آ رہے تھے نا میرے اندر بہت سارے. آہستہ آہستہ وقت ایسے گزرا کہ اتنی ہمت آنے لگی کہ میں نے ہوم ٹیوشن اسٹارٹ کی. پھر میں نے اپنی اسٹڈیز کمپلیٹ کی ودن 12 ایئرس. اسٹڈیز کمپلیٹ کرنے کے بعد آہستہ آہستہ وقت چلتا گیا. الحمدللہ اس وقت میں پارلیمنٹ ہاؤس میں میں ڈائریکٹر سینٹ اسٹینڈنگ کمیٹی آن نیشنل ہیلتھ ریگولیشنس, اور ایک رسپیکٹیبل جاب ہے میرے پاس. لیکن الحمدللہ, لیکن اس سے کہیں بڑھ کے جو لیول آف سیٹسفیکشن, جو سکسیس, جس کو اس ریلیٹیو ٹرم, ویسے تو ہر ایک کے لیے سکسیس مختلف چیز ہے اس کی ڈیفینیشن, لیکن جو سکسیس ہے وہ میرے نزدیک آئی ایم سکسیزفل ناؤ بیکاز آئی ایم سکسیزفل ایز اے مدر. اس لیے کہ میں ایسے بچوں کی تربیت کر رہی ہوں, 4 بچوں کی اس طرح سے جو آگے چل کے ملک میں دہشت گردی نہیں کریں گے. آئی نو, جو آگے چل کے اس ریس میں شامل نہیں ہوں گے کہ ہم نے یہ والے کپڑے خریدنے ہیں برانڈ والے, وی ڈونٹ نیڈ دیٹ. وہ اس چکر میں نہیں آئیں گے کہ ہم نے صرف جنک کھانا ہے, وہ یہ کہیں کہ ماما جو ہم نے گھر میں دیسی بنایا ہے وہ ہمیں چاہیے. وہ اس چکر میں نہیں آئیں گے سو کالڈ ماڈرنزم, سو کالڈ سروائول فار دا فٹسٹ, دے وڈنٹ سیک دیٹ. ابھی بھی ہم یہ دیکھتے ہیں جو بچوں کے اندر یہ عجیب سا ٹرینڈ ہے ہمارے معاشرے میں, بیکاز بینگ اے مدر آئی ایم ٹاکنگ وتھ یو, وہ جو بچے ہیں وہ والدین کے سنتے نہیں, ان سے دور ہیں, ہر وقت موبائل پہ ٹائم گزارتے ہیں. ٹھیک ہے, ایک وقت آئے گا جب آپ بچوں کی نہیں سنتے, وہ بھی آپ کی نہیں سنیں گے, بڑھاپے میں وہ بھی آپ کے ساتھ نہیں ہیں بالکل بھی, کیونکہ ہم نے ان کی تربیت نہیں کی. اس کی ریزن یہ ہے کہ یہ جو لائف سٹائل میڈیسن ہے, یہ جو ماڈیفیکیشن سارا پروگرام ہے, یہ آپ کو ماڈیفائی کرتا ہے کس طرح سے. ایک ماں کو کیسے ماڈیفائی کرتا ہے کہ وہ اپنے بچے کی بہتر تربیت کر سکتی ہے. ایک بچے کو کیسے ماڈیفائی کرتا ہے کہ اس کا جو ایمبیشن ہے لائف میں صرف جاب لینا اور اونچے گریڈ پہ جانا نہیں ہے. اس کا ایک ایمبیشن ہے لائف کے اندر ایک اچھا انسان بننا, پازیٹیو پرسن بننا, معاشرے کے اندر پریکٹیکل کردار ادا کرنا. آپ سب بہت زیادہ پریشیس ہیں. مجھے یوں لگا ڈاکٹر صاحبہ کے پاس جانے کے بعد کہ جو ڈاکٹر ہے وہ ایک گیم چینجر ہے. اصل میں ہمارے ملک کے لیے ڈاکٹر ایک گیم چینجر ثابت ہوگا. بھول جائیے گورنمنٹ کو, بھول جائیے ان سب چیزوں کو, وہ ہمارے لیے کیا کریں گے, چھوڑ دیں اس بات کو. 60 کی دہائی میں امریکہ میں جب ڈپریشن آیا, اکنامک ڈپریشن, تو ان کی قوم سے کہا گیا کہ آپ جو ہے انکم سپورٹ پیکیج لیں گے. تو انہوں نے کہا بالکل نہیں, ہم ایسی حکومت کو اتار دیں گے جو ہمیں انکم سپورٹ پیکیج دے. ہمیں وہ گورنمنٹ چاہیے جو ہمیں امپلائمنٹ کے موقع دے. وی وانٹ ٹو ورک. دنیا میں جتنے انقلابات آئے ہیں اس میں آپ دیکھیں قوموں نے کیا کردار ادا کیا. وہی قومیں ہیں جو صحت مند ماؤں نے پیدا کی ود اسٹیبلٹی آف دا مائنڈ, ود اے گڈ ریلیشن شپ. ہمارا گھر, ہماری مائیں, ہماری عورتیں, ہمارے والدین اولاد کو جیمز بنا سکتے ہیں, مستقبل میں میرے قوم کا اہم سرمایہ بنا سکتے ہیں. دس از اونلی پاسبل اگر ہم ڈاکٹرز جو ہیں وہ اپنا وہ اسٹائل سارا ٹھیک کر لیں. آپ صرف مریضوں کا وہ جو ہے دوائیوں کو نسخہ نہ بنا کے دے, اگر ان کی دی ہوئی جو ان کا نالج, ان کی جو ریسرچ ہے اس کو اگر امبائب کرنے اس پیٹرن میں, تو وی کین ایکچولی ماڈیفائی دا ہول سوسائٹی, دا ہول نیشن. سو یو آر دا بگ گیم چینجر. دس از مائی میسج. تھینک یو سو مچ.
Colonel Niaz Hussain Siddiqui has been under the treatment of Dr. Shagufta Feroz, and now I would request him to come up on the stage and share his experience with us.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Respectable guests, it's indeed a matter of great honor for me to stand here today and talk about, the process that I went through. First time I met Dr. Shagufta Feroz was in 2011. It was early, probably January or February of 2011. Basically, I went there for the treatment of my wife, who had a long list of ailments. But after she was through with her, I requested her to also attend to me. She was very kind, though I did not have my appointment. Some of the major ailments or the problems that I had were IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, lichen planus, the skin disease. I had a factory of stones. Every 3-4 years, a stone would come out of the kidney. Claustrophobia and seasonal blood pressure. The questions that she normally asks, to analyze the patient. She asked me, you take tea? I said, yes. She said, how many? I said, in winters, about 10 to 12 cups. And in summers, actually 5 to 6 cups. She said, you have to reduce them to 2. One in the morning, one in the evening. I said, Dr. Sahaba, that may not be possible. Because I spent my life taking so much tea. And, I'm a smoker also. So it may not. She said, it will be possible. I'll tell you how it is possible. Trust me, it took me just 3 to 4 days to adjust to this new routine of having a cup of tea in the morning and a cup of tea in the evening. It was the timings that she told me, you don't take tea with the breakfast. You take it either half an hour before or 1.5 hours after the breakfast. Sorry. And similar in the evening, you can have a cup of tea. The essential part was she said, you use milk, of course, in tea, and you drink milk otherwise? I said, yes. She said, which milk? And, with a broad chest, an aviator from the Pakistan Army, now a businessman, it was Nestle. There couldn't be anything else. That's the style. And she looked at me and said, Khan Sahab, you have to finish this off, and you should drink Gawala milk. I said, Dr. Sharma, that causes TB. And, it's so dirty that the amount of water they put in, and they don't use clean water. She said, Khan Sahab, we're talking of Second World War. In those days, the containers were such that, tuberculosis was common. But now, that is not the issue. Yes, water, of course. Is there any, nala close to your house? I said, yes, I have. It's pretty close. She said, if your Gawala picks up the water from that nala and adds to the milk, and then you see it yourself, still boil the milk, recite the Durood Sharif, and drink it. That was the time that I started thinking, Dr. Sahab is so confident, and naturally she had to, that what is so much bad or something, terrible with that milk that I am using, the Tetra milks. And that was the the start of my journey, it took me 3 years to dig out how that milk is made. I'll just give you first step. The tankers, when they move out of the factory for collecting milk, they add 1 bag of fertilizer in every tanker. Now imagine your milk is stored in an environment which has got a full bag of fertilizer. Anyway, so this continued. Alhamdulillah, I have been very seriously following her suggested diets. Earlier it was typical, fast food, lot of chicken, cold drinks, which all have gone now. And to the extent that I can say in last 10 years, probably I have not eaten half of a chicken, poultry chicken. Not even a half in last 10 years if you combine all those pieces that I might have taken. So I'm very religiously following, and my wife is also following. We have noted the change in our life, it's the mobility. It is the moods. The moods are much better. Now we are happy. Now we eat food and we feel happy. That is the biggest achievement. The ability to face all the challenges, the challenges that we have today, the peer pressures, the business pressures, we have other traumas in our family, but we are able to, face all these with a lot of strength. And of course, very strong will and an inner strength. So I would suggest to all of you not only to practice it for the patients, or add it as a subject in your medicine, follow it yourself personally. It's unbelievable. You have to follow it religiously to find out the effects that will have on your life. Your entire outlook changes. Your entire outlook virtually changes, and you're so strong. And one thing which I'd like to, which is not a part of this probably seminar, but I would request you all, there is one thing which is going to override all these factors, is the mobile phone. The amount of usage that we have today and the way the children are using it, I have no doubt that probably this is the Dajjal, because it is going to control the people. If you see the children, they've got so addicted to this thing that if you take the mobile away from a 3 or 4 or 5 years child who's using it 3 to 4 hours, he almost goes mad. So I would request you all that in the interest of our future generations, this is one thing on which you all must work, that you have to create and make the parents understand, make the children understand that this is something, because otherwise it will be like zombies. Trust me, somebody will switch off the master cell phone and people will, be virtually, तड़प रहे होंगे. ये हालत हो जाएगी. Thank you very much.
Now we will have a memorandum of understanding signing ceremony. This memorandum of understanding is made on 4th day of October 2019 between Rifa International University, Islamabad, to its Chancellor, Mr. Hassan Muhammad Khan, and Lifestyle Medicine Training Center through its CEO, Dr. Shagufta Feroz.
Change that. Thank you.